I'm ready.
Hi, my name is Jordy Izzard. I'm Senior Associate Director of Alumni Relations at SAIS. Today's date is April 2nd, 2015, and I'm here today with Carmela Vetri, who graduated from SAIS in 1985 and went to the Bologna campus preceding that, left there in 1983. And we're just going to basically have a little bit of a conversation today, and why don't we just start with what originally brought you to SAIS?
Well, I was looking for a good graduate school, Johns Hopkins being among the best, and in my naivete at 22 years old, I wanted to go to Italy. So that fit the parameters. Italy, a good school. So I applied to SAIS for that reason.
That's great. And tell us a little bit about your memories of being at SAIS. Now, that would be obviously Bologna and Washington, D.C., and just tell us what it was like to be a student.
Well, I was not a great student. I think many people say that, but it's not important what your grades are, it's important what you do afterwards. And I feel very confident that what I did afterwards falls in line with the goals of SAIS and Johns Hopkins.
No problem. It's just sort of remembering back to being a student.
It was a great class. Every class has its own dynamic, and our class was fabulous. We had our 30th anniversary 2 years ago, and 30% of our class was there. That meant 30 people. It was magical, as the word I use for it's magical, because it was great. We had a great class. We loved each other very much. We had a great time. The dollar was strong, so everything seemed not to be expensive. So we had a great time, and we bonded. A lot of us bonded.
That's great. And was this was in Bologna?
This was in Bologna.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I made very deep friendships with people that I didn't know well in Bologna, but I really got to know well when I came to Washington. So it's interesting that my deep friendships after Bologna came to people that I didn't get to know very well in Bologna, but I got to know very well at SAIS in Washington.
That's great. And what was kind of going on historically at the time when you were a student in either Europe or the U.S.?
Well, we still were in the middle of the Cold War. Because it was 1983, so it was actually 6 years before the Berlin Wall fell down. So it was basically Cold War period. It was the Cold War period. That, as I mentioned earlier, the dollar was strong. And I learned a lot about not being isolationist because I think we as Americans grow up in the isolationist psyche. When I went to Bologna, I really learned that it's the world. There are many other people, not just Americans. So that opened my eyes terrifically to the fact that there's a world around us.
That's great. And what about faculty members? Do you remember any faculty or?
I remember the Zamanis.
Okay, tell us about them.
They're economists. They teach economy in Bologna. And I lived with a Dutch woman and a Belgian woman. And I was an American. So it was interesting. That was a cross-cultural experience in and of itself, living in Bologna with a Dutch woman and a Belgian woman. And we befriended the Zamanis. We even had them over for dinner one night, which was very memorable evening. It was wonderful.
That's great.
And John Harper, who doesn't remember John Harper, he's unforgettable. So we had a good time with John Harper. He was a great professor.
That's great.
And the Zamanis, I remember more than anybody.
Okay, great. And then tell us a little bit about when you, in 1985, May was coming, you were graduating. How did your career start? And tell us a little bit about how it evolved.
Well, a friend of mine, because many times friends invite us to apply for jobs. I worked for an organization called Youth for Understanding International Exchange, which manages exchange programs for students from the United States to go overseas and vice versa for students from overseas to come to the United States for a year to go to school, a year or summer to go to school and live with an American family. So I was invited to apply for a job with Youth for Understanding as a news editor in their public relations department. And I did that. And as a result, I got my foot into the exchange world. And in 1993, after the breakup of the Soviet Union, I applied for a job to help start the what is now the Future Leaders Exchange Program, which is a one-year exchange with the students of the former Soviet Union to come to the United States for a year, live with a family, and go to school, paid for by the U.S. government. I applied for that job. I got that job, and I was on the ground floor of starting that job. We started that job from this piece of paper, and now we have over 20,000 alumni. And through that job, I feel confident that I've changed millions of lives, because the 20,000 students, it affects their community at home, it affects their family and friends at home, it affects their communities in the United States and their family and friends in the United States. So if you multiply 20,000 alumni by the 100 or 200 people that they meet in their communities, that's millions of students. So I feel confident that my legacy is changing millions of lives.
That's great. And are you, tell us what maybe was this up until like recently?
Up until recently, when I had to retire for medical reasons.
Okay, great. And maybe in thinking back, tell us a little bit more about your career, like some of the detail involved in that. I mean, it sounds fascinating.
Well, the detail in that, I'm of the ilk that I keep a job as long as I can. There's some people that change jobs every 2 years. I worked for Youth for Understanding for 16 years and the American Councils for International Education for 2 years. 10 years. So my career of 26 years was essentially doing the same work, was international exchange.
No. Any more about your Oh, that's fine. Well, like in thinking,
I was going to go somewhere,
okay.
but I'm forgetting that where I was going with that.
Don't worry. Yeah, I was just asking you maybe for a little bit more about like your day to day and what you did.
Well,
I
helped start the program, and I worked on orientations for a number of years. I traveled a lot to the former Soviet Union. I don't remember how many times I've been to Russia. I've been so many times. I've been to many of the countries of the former Soviet Union, and I've been fortunate enough to travel all around the world as a result of that. And that
What's your favorite country?
I've been to 6 of the 12 countries of the former Soviet Union. So that's been, I'm very grateful for that, because that's been a learning experience, and I've made many friendships out of the Russians and the Georgians, etc., the Kazakhs, the Uzbeks. I've been to Uzbekistan 3 times. So I feel fortunate to have had that experience.
That's great. Now, in thinking back, you mentioned you were in this career for about 26 years.
Right.
Tell us, in thinking about current students today, what advice might you have for a current student?
My advice to people who graduate schools, any school, whether it's high school or college, is work hard and play hard, and life will be good. That's my elevator advice. Work hard, play hard, and life will be good. And give back to your community. I believe in giving back to your community. Because it's global. It's not just the community where you grew up, but it's the U.S., it's the world. So your community is the whole globe. So give back to your community.
Okay, great. Anything else?
No. Live hard, work hard, and life will be good. If you act in a genuine manner, life will be good.
That's great. Well, we really appreciate having you here today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for all you've done for SAIS in the world, and thanks so much. And
you're welcome.
Have a great day.
Thank you.